questions for Coach Casteel? Greg?
So, Jeff, start with why did you unretire? What was this, or did Rosie just say you got to get out and do something else?
Well, that was probably part of it, but in reality, when Rich had talked to Jake about coming up, he was down there on Jacksonville's Jack State's staff last fall, and when he brought Jake up, and then Rich gave me a call, and to be honest with you, and this probably sounds bad, but I've probably spent more time with Jake the last 3 months than I had really, probably forever. So, that was really really a good piece to me coming out of that. And but I'm really appreciative of Rich, and Jake does a good job, and it's really good to work with him.
You've been out of it that long, but is it riding a bike? I mean, you just plug right back in. Do you feel like
I think for the most part, and the kids are good kids. It's the same thing in every spring ball. It doesn't matter. When you're installing things, things are new to them, and but for the most part, it's and I coached basically the Bandit when I was back with Neil the 1 year with that I was on the field, so I'm used to it.
They say, like father, like son. What do you hope he takes from you, and what do you not even want to take from him?
Well, hopefully he has more patience than I've had over, and he's really, he's ahead of where I was probably at that age. Jake, I think, is 29, and he's been around some really good coaches. Where he played out at Northern Arizona. Not to make it about Jake, but the guy there's now the co-defensive coordinator at Stanford, Andy Thompson, a really good coach. He's been at Boise. They've consistently won, and learned a lot from there. And then was been with Rich, and he was out at he coached the linebackers out of Cal Poly out in San Luis Obispo. So, he's had a pretty good background, and he's been doing it for, probably about 6-7 years now. So, and I'm looking forward to spending some time with him.
You've obviously seen some of the games that he's coached.
Yeah.
Do you watch what he's doing and what's going on, or do you get, and do you talk to him about it after the game?
Yeah, and we've already had a few semi-arguments, probably arguments in the meeting room about things, but he's got a good head on his shoulders, and like I say, he's ahead of, and I tell him that too. I said he's ahead of where I was at 28, 29 years old, probably in the coaching profession.
How different is it from what you've had to run in the past? What do you think of it?
Well, I think it's good. It's just Zach is, and I don't want to talk a whole lot about that, but it's really multiple. So you do a lot of things, and I think it's good for the kids because they have to do different things, and the more things that they can function with within the defense, I think makes them more marketable as a player as they want to go, they want to go play in the NFL or whatever. The more things you can do, and but primarily, we're trying to get them to be a pass rusher. we that's where we've really got to improve with the group of guys that I'm coaching or we're coaching.
What do you think of those guys? Give me a look at your Bandits.
Well, we've Curtis Jones has done a good job, and Braden Sider's done a good job, and we've had a couple guys banged up, but so they're a work in progress. But I don't know. I think this was practice 7 or 8. I don't even know what practice this was. They all run together, but we're probably about halfway through, and you're about where you'd think you'd be, and really that room is really young. As a matter of fact, the only one who isn't young is Braden, who was a transfer from Wyoming. Great kid, and a great work ethic, a leader, and he's a solid guy. But other than him, everybody else is really a first or second year player, so they're learning.
What do you ideally want characteristic-wise at that position?
That's a really a good question. I mean, but number one, I think speed. We had a guy named Bruce Irvin back in the day. If we could. Probably won't find Bruce right now, but but a kid that's explosive, can get off the football and press the pocket, do the things you need to do but really we probably got to improve foot speed is the first thing that I'm looking for.
Could you talk a little bit about the evolution of the bandit position? Has that come about because of the change in quarterbacks?
I think it's a hybrid between being able to play a 4 down and a 3 down front, and so that guy's basically an outside linebacker, defensive end type kid is what the position is, and so they've got to be able to be stout enough to set an edge versus some big kids, tackles and that at this level, and also have the athleticism and quickness to affect the quarterback throwing the football. So and with all the things that as much quarterback run stuff as you get now. So but I think for us probably the biggest thing is to get athletic people there is what we're going to end up doing probably.
You mentioned multiple defense. You've also talked, I remember in the past, about not being too complicated and asking kids to do too many things so they can't know what they're doing. So where's the fine line there of having a good package in but not going overly complicated?
Well, I think the more that you end up getting in, you can really put it in categories, and right now that's what we're doing is putting them in categories where it's not that not confusing, or where they can package them and say, okay, when we hear this is what we do. So the kids get it figured out. They've done a good job.
If you're talking about Jake moving around to different parts of the country, climbing the ladder, you did a little bit of that too. Florida, Shepherd, El Paso.
Yeah.
Do you remember those moves, and could you see? It just seems so obvious now. You have to make moves. You're going to get in the profession, but was it that obvious to you that you had to go high school Florida, a smaller school in West Virginia, all the way to El Paso if you wanted to get to where you ultimately ended up?
Right. And when the thing with UTEP happened, I wasn't going to take it because my son and daughter were both young, about 18 months, and my wife said, if you don't take that job, you're gonna regret that the rest of your life, really, just because to see what's going to happen. And sure enough, I'm down there a season, and Coach Rod calls me. He gets this job, and I'm back in Morgantown. In fact, my family, we lived in Myersville, which is right outside of Frederick, Maryland. I went there by myself to El Paso, and then came back, and we all moved to Morgantown from my wife and kids stayed there. I'm the only one that went to El Paso.
Do you remember going against Rich? He talked about some of the clashes that you guys had.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Back at Shepherd and Glenville.
This guy's got something that.
Yeah. And the thing that I think that Coach does really well, when you play his teams are competitive. And I mean an aggressive, tough, hard-nosed, competitive. You're gonna have to work for 4 quarters if you're gonna try to beat them. But then when you work with him, then you see that the team within the team is competitive, if that makes sense, if I'm making sense with it. It's kind of hard for me to describe that, but like the guys within the program, they become so competitive, and that all rubs off from Rich, and he's been able to take that everywhere he's been, and I think that's what is probably the foundation for his success. I mean, we had some really great games, and I don't know how many we won and how many he won, but we both of us had pretty much the two best teams in the league back then.
The evolution of his offense, I mean, Jed Drenning wasn't running like they do now, so.
Right. Him and Rod Smith, I said, "Gee, how did that happen?" Yeah, they must have forgot to give the handoff and took off. Rich started yelling at him, and they took off running. But yeah, I always thought there's the two guys that figured out the zone read in football, and you wouldn't know that looking at them. But yeah, Rich is and the tempo that he plays with and all those things really play into to his success, and I think offensively what he does, it's not that it's simple, but you just rep so much and you go so quick, and the kids get really, really good at the fundamentals of what they need to do to be successful.
Okay, anything else?
Is recruiting any different, now? And what areas do they have you recruiting?
Well, now it's almost transactional sometimes with the recruiting, but it's still the same thing. And Jake and I are really position recruiting, and we're really all over the place. There's not a central area that we're looking. We're all over the place, but there's some two junior college kids from California that we signed with the signing date. So, and when the portal opens, it's all over. So, I guess to answer your question, yeah, recruiting has changed, but it's still the same thing. And the kids are just looking for a place where they can have some success, and that's. There's really not a whole lot different with that.
You guys and staff who has some Big 12 experience, having seen this league, different. I mean, what Rich is going to face in this league, is it different than when he faced Big 10, Pac-12, things like that?
It probably will be, but football is football, and good players are good players, and everybody has good players. There's good players in every league, and so I don't know that that's that big of an issue. Rich has played against a lot of really good football teams, and I don't think the Big 12 or whatever league it really matters. Everybody's got good players.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys. Nobody threw any